if you have an account on any social media platform, or even if you just have a couple real life friends, you've probably heard about Bird Box. Maybe you've even watched it yourself. I don't know. It was kind of a big deal. I mean, it's not really anymore because I've waited too long to talk about it. So without any further ado, before any more time passes, I'm going to talk about Bird Box. I'm Brian Kyle McCord. How are you? Bird Box, starring Sandra Bullock and John Malkovich and that girl from Dumplin' and that dude from Get Out and a bunch of other people, directed by who knows who. It's Bird Box. It's a survival horror movie, and it was getting mixed reviews from fans and critics. It was kind of a big deal. Some people love it for being original, some people hate it for being completely unoriginal, and I'm somewhere in the middle. Bird Box is a film with unoriginal execution, but a pretty original premise, even though it's kind of like The Happening, I guess. The unoriginal execution is the way they generally execute their film. However, as I said, the premise is kind of fun and kind of fresh. There's some sort of big monster thing in Bird Box, and if you look at it, you go crazy and you kill yourself. Sorry, kill yourself. I don't want to say it. I don't want to get flagged or whatever. It's like Adpocalypse 2 in here, I guess. Obviously, the survivors who realize that this is the case, they blindfold themselves for their own safety. It's a fun idea, but in a world of other similarly executed horror movies, Bird Box doesn't seem that unique. It just seems like a slight alteration on the format. In A Quiet Place, you can't make a sound. In It Follows, you have to have sex with people who you don't know, or you gotta keep moving. In Bird Box, you can't look outside. Honestly, like the least ominous of them, I guess. They all kind of feel like a zombie movie with just some sort of gimmick. And all of these things leave huge, lingering questions that tear apart the whole premise of the film. That's kind of how all these movies work, if you just think of one thing. I generally try not to dwell on stuff like that, because every horror movie is kind of dumb. All of them have massive plot holes in them. The main character in It Follows, for instance, is a complete and total moron. The idea that the deaf girl in A Quiet Place can survive in a world without making a sound when she can't even hear herself talking or moving is kind of hard to believe, and Bird Box isn't really different in that regard. It's kind of hard to believe that people can go around with blindfolds on, or that they would, or anything like that. It's also kind of hard to believe that there's like a guy who, if he goes crazy, he can look at the thing, and but if he's sane, you can't look at the thing, and if you're crazy, you try to make people, it's like he basically looked at the thing but didn't kill himself, and now he just pushes other people into it. It's kind of weird. I don't know. That being said, I pretty much enjoyed this film. It was pretty okay. It has a wonderful performance from Sandra Bullock, who is pretty much the only person worth remembering in this entire film, and an interesting enough premise to engage you throughout the film. Most of the other characters in this film are as dumb as a bag of stupid rocks. The character that matters is smart and strong, so that's all that really counts. Without going into any of the spoilers, I want to say that I have mixed feelings about the ending of this movie, but overall I like the general message of motherhood that this movie puts out there. In fact, I think the story is the movie's strength. I think in that regard it's kind of better than A Quiet Place, where there was sort of no point to the whole thing, and the ending was like maybe even worse than this one. It's a strong story in a kind of otherwise average movie. Bird Box also refrained from showing the monster, which Quiet Place did kind of a lot, and I really hated it. Don't show the monster in a monster movie, especially if it looks really bad. On the other hand, A Quiet Place has better all-around acting. Sandra Bullock is probably better than all of them at acting. Their cast was better in general. Even John Malkovich, who can act, kind of sucked in Bird Box. In A Quiet Place, all the actors were great. All of them, all the way through. A Quiet Place is also better at making you uneasy and tense, which is super important in horror, and Bird Box kind of fails that a little bit. So, in general, I sort of favor A Quiet Place over Bird Box, if you were wondering. Also, another reason is A Quiet Place has great sound design, and Bird Box has not as great sound design, and the visuals or whatever in both movies, kind of. So, Quiet Place wins. It's own it, if you're wondering about Quiet Place. But we're not talking about Quiet Place. We're talking about Bird Box. I don't really have anything else to say about Bird Box, though, because it's just kind of whatever. It's your standard fare for horror survival movies with a pretty interesting premise, a great performance by Sandra Bullock, and under my rating scale, I'd say that it's worth a rent, but you don't even have to rent it because it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original, so you don't have to pay for it at all, apart from your standard monthly Netflix subscription. And apparently all I talk about is Netflix movies. We did Velvet Buzzsaw and Bandersnatch and Sabrina and now Bird Box, finally. In all honesty, even though it's nothing too special, it's leagues above a lot of Netflix's other original content. They can take that into account for all of their future movies, so that we don't get a slew of crappy Hallmark Christmas movies on my Netflix page. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about Bird Box. It's a rent, but you don't have to rent it. Thank you guys for watching. I've been Brian Kyle McCord, as always. If you want to tell me what movies you would like for me to review, or what you think about Bird Box, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. You can also leave comments about It Follows or A Quiet Place or whatever. Any movie. Just talk about movies. I like movies. And of course, if you're new here, if you're from Ethan's video that just came out today, then please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Sorry that I'm in a new set already. You just saw that clip today, and I've already moved over here, but I'm kind of just figuring things out over here on my YouTube space, and I filmed that clip like a month ago. So anyway, bye, Accordions. See you next time.